All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for finishing your day with us. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being here the whole day with us. My name is Danielle Margarida. I am the Youth Services Coordinator at the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services, or OLIS. OLIS is the Rhode Island State Library Agency. And I'm excited to talk to you today about transforming and scaling teen services for equity, diversity, and inclusion, or TS4EDI. TS4EDI is our abbreviation for this project. This was a 3-year project that Rhode Island libraries participated in, along with libraries in Washington, as well as additional partner libraries nationwide. So this afternoon, we're going to start with a question of the day. Question of the day is something that we did with our cohort throughout this project. Every session, we had a question of the day to sort of like jump into things to get conversation started. I'll talk a little bit, just a general explanation of what connected learning is. TS4EDI resulted in 2 reports, so I will share the key findings in those reports, as well as recommendations for staff. I have some resources to share, and we'll leave some time for questions. So our question for the day, and you can put it in the chat, is to think about who is someone that mentored, coached, or supported you when you were a teen. Yeah, it might be family, it might be a teacher. Well, this is great. We have English teachers, science teachers, theater teachers, dads, sisters, grandmothers, band teachers, fantastic moms. Oh, there we go. We got a librarian. We all had that librarian, didn't we? Awesome. Church leaders. I love that folks remember the names as well from back in the day. This is great. People naming people. All right. Great. Well, this is a great way to start thinking about um, supporting teens, remembering what it was like for us to feel supported. All right. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about connected learning. Um, Christy talked a little bit about this already. If you were here for her presentation in the morning, she mentioned the project Transforming Teen Services, which was grounded in connected learning. TS4EDI actually grew out of the work from that project. So you may be familiar with connected learning because you participated in connected learning trainings through the Transforming Teen Services project in the past. Connected learning was first introduced by the Connected Learning Research Network in 2013 and updated in 2020. It's a framework that emphasizes the intersection of youth interests, relationships, and opportunities using an asset-based approach that highlights the cultural strengths of minoritized teens and their communities. So public libraries are uniquely positioned to support this model. Public libraries offer safe environments, resources, and a sense of community that many teens might not find elsewhere. Connected learning focuses on creating experiences that are driven by teens' personal interests, whether related to hobbies, culture, social issues. It thrives on strong relationships. And also, connected learning links the experiences of teens to academic, civic, career opportunities, helping teens bridge the gap between their passions and real world pathways, ultimately creating transformative and engaging learning experiences. So, with that in mind, whether you know a lot about connected learning, whether this is the first time you've heard about connected learning, let's take an opportunity. We're going to do a little word cloud activity here. I'm going to put the link in the chat as well. And then let me pull up. All right, here's our word cloud. Okay, here's access. So what comes to mind when you think about connected learning? Maybe something in the description stood out to you. Maybe it's something you've already been implementing. Apologies. I sent the link just to the panelists and not everyone, so it should be there now. And feel free to add it into the chat too, as folks have been doing that. All right. Ooh, someone, Homago. You might remember Homago as sort of being an earlier framework related to connected learning, right? Hanging out, what was it? Hanging out, messing around. What was the GO? If someone can remind me, I'm blanking on what the
Geeking out.
Geeking out. That's the most important part. I can't believe I forgot that. This is great. And also too, and something that I'm not going to talk too much about today, but someone noted here, and I see it coming up in the word cloud, is I think I saw it, digitally connected. But that's another, or connected to others digitally. But that is another piece of connected learning that we are so networked now, and that teens um, have so much more access and so much more reach for building relationships in the digital world. That is also a part of connected learning framework as well. I love this youth empowerment and agency, collaboration, community, front and center, interest, front and center. Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think everyone's got a real solid feel for connected learning. So that's great. So we can move on and talk about connected learning can be really challenging to implement in libraries. Engaging teams effectively requires us to move beyond traditional programming and embrace new culturally responsive approaches. So what has been found, and particularly through this project has proven true, is that libraries have had transformative impact when shifting to a focus on relationship building, re-envisioning use of community and library spaces, when there's a focus on flexibility and responsibilities and schedules, um, having a tolerance for risk taking, involving youth and staff in planning, decision making, and implementation, and an openness to experimentation. So it does take a cultural shift. It does take moving away from what we've traditionally done. So hopefully this framework and this report and its associated resources can give you some ideas for how you might do that. So more about the TS4EDI project. It was a 3-year project. We just wrapped it up this summer, funded by IMLS and led by the Connected Learning Lab at the University of California, Irvine. The aim of this project was to investigate the challenges library staff face and the support they need for designing and sustaining connected learning experiences, including in rural and small libraries. The research team reviewed existing research, partnered with 9 libraries across urban, suburban, and rural areas, and conducted interviews with 25 library staff members. The project produced reports tailored to public library leadership and teen services staff with key findings and recommendations, as well as checklists for how to put connected learning into practice. Each report offers opportunities, challenges, and recommendations, along with examples of connected learning in libraries. So there are two reports, one for library leaders, one for library staff. Today, I will just be talking about the staff report, but the library leaders report is a great resource. There was a question earlier about how one might get boards and administrators on board with some changes. So this is a great tool to help make some of that happen. So each report presents 4 key findings. And like I said, it provides the opportunities, challenges, and recommendations and real life examples for each finding. So finding number 1, relationships with teens. Finding number 2 is partnerships. Finding number 3 is outcomes. And 4 is professional learning. Okay. So relationships with teens. Moving from transactional and program-specific relationships to more holistic ones means that connecting to varied dimensions of teens' lives. So this requires recognizing the power of social time before, during, and after programs or in informal drop-in spaces designed for hanging out and socializing. Authentic relationships grow over time through interaction across a spectrum of contexts and activities, fed by open curiosity about different cultures and interests and developing into mutual respect and understanding. And this is one of the findings that had probably the challenge that I hear the most from teen services librarians is that it is hard to move away from the desk. And that might really be something that resonates with you as well. Another challenge that we discovered is moving beyond own personal interests, having the opportunity to build relationships with teens outside of the library, and being able to bring in community members with expertise beyond staff personal interests. So there are quite a few suggestions in the report, but some of the big ones, again, and this is, and I feel grateful to be speaking last this afternoon because I feel like the foundation has already been set for a lot of these ideas, but teens engage when they feel seen, heard, and connected. So if there are opportunities to spend work time outside of a library to meet teens where they are at, outside of formal programs or in teen-friendly spaces outside the library. Foster authentic and holistic relationships with youth by sharing food, life experiences with each other, and engaging in activities for purely social reasons. And again, meet young people where they are at. Be curious about their interests and open to engaging with topics outside of your expertise and personal interest. And advocate with library leaders for the value of building informal relationships with teens. All right, partnerships. Community partners who embody teen interests and identities, such as artists or tech entrepreneurs, can be key brokers, connectors, and social network links for teens, expanding the range and depth of interests and identities that are supported through the community. Through partnerships, library staff can identify strengths in the community, explore ways to share resources, and find the best partners for a particular activity or project, and expand knowledge of the local area. So challenges in this area include colleagues and leaders not recognizing the value of diverse community partnerships, and as a result, not being able to support a full and equitable range of teen interests. So the challenge here being that partnerships are maybe only relegated to schools or maybe a specific out of school time organization, as opposed to sort of maybe thinking outside of those traditional partnerships and being able to bring folks in. This is where asset mapping comes really handy, being able to have that map of who your community assets might be, and those assets might be individuals who have expertise in one area. It might be Businesses. It might be, um, we often talk about, the funeral home, and that sounds super morbid, but everyone everyone dies. That sounds terrible. But all of that to say that, right? Like the funeral home has really got like sort of a finger on the pulse of the community of what's going on. So it might not be like a formal partnership in that you are collaborating or doing something together, but definitely an opportunity to learn more about what's going on in the community. Um, so some recommendations. Oh, your local funeral home has a barbecue every year. That's fantastic. Thank you, Christy. Christy has added in the chat the asset mapping toolkit. Um, so when building partnerships, I think one of the biggest ruts that we kind of fall into is we show up and we want to give our library elevator speech. This is what the library can do for you. This is how I can help you. But what I really recommend when building partnerships is scheduling a time to meet and to learn more about your partner, just to have a conversation, to learn where the library's goals might align with the potential partner, to learn where the mission aligns, and just to find out, to be curious about the partners. So other recommendations include being open to a diversity of experts and locations and types of programming outside of existing traditional partnerships. Also advocating for job descriptions at all levels to enable varied staff and departments to engage in partnership development, collaborative service design, and analysis of community strengths. So that's something else that we found is sort of the traditional library structure, the hierarchy, the job descriptions get in the way of people being able to do this work. So we definitely recognize that that's a challenge there. Also, to seek out and participate in events and meetings to support building connections with small businesses, arts organizations, entrepreneurs, and so on. Here in Rhode Island, we have health equity zones, and many of our librarians either attend those meetings or are part of advisory boards for those groups. And that has been very impactful in being able to serve their community. And again, the health equity zones are kind of those non-traditional partnerships, right? Moving away from the school department, the rec center. Not to say completely abandon those partnerships and relationships, but to be able to maybe think beyond those. Okay, outcomes. And this one's a tricky one too. So connected learning-based services provide the opportunity to capture compelling outcomes related to social emotional learning, workforce development, and academic achievement. During our cohort meetings, library staff talked about the difficulty of making a case for connected learning services because of the focus on numbers rather than impact or youth outcomes. And I have a feeling that this is something that probably also resonates very much with most folks in libraries. So some of the things that we can do, some of the recommendations is being able to work with your leadership to map the library strategic plan, vision, and mission to specific youth outcomes and provide opportunities for staff to build team services that align with strategic mapping. Also capture and communicate the qualitative data and stories about youth outcomes in addition to the qualitative data, right? So the outcomes are the stories, the outputs are the numbers. Both have importance in being able to paint a picture of what's happening. But it's those stories that are really going to sort of show that transformative impact. Recommendations include seeking out opportunities to learn about assessment tools, logic models, and data analysis to integrate outcomes and impact into all aspects of program and service planning. And towards the end of this, I'm going to show you where you can find some of those tools for measuring outcomes that are my absolute favorite things to use. You can embrace outcome-oriented storytelling by highlighting teen outcomes in presentations and conversations with leadership, colleagues, supporters, and community partners. One of our libraries here in Rhode Island was nominated for um, the IMLS medal. And as part of that, they were collecting stories. And one of those was a letter written by a teen. And it was very, very powerful. Um, Another story I love that I think is pretty powerful in one of our grant reports, we had a story of a program. It was a paint night program, and it was within the story was about a teen couple who kind of made it their date night. And I will tell you that in reading those grant reports, that story showed me more of what was going on than necessarily like the participation numbers did. So things like that, they might seem small in the moment, they might seem small to you, but they do really show what's happening. Okay. Okay, so fourth finding, professional learning. So when library staff have opportunities to learn together, especially outside established areas such as teen literature and teen programming, they are invigorated and energized by new ideas. These learning relationships and new ideas often help staff to overcome burnout and feeling overwhelmed. Learning about new and innovative ideas from speakers and facilitators outside of the library profession help library staff to better understand local communities and can aid in expanding possibilities and shifting mindsets. Um, so another challenge, we recognize that this is a challenge, is there's limited support for peer-to-peer and diverse professional learning, especially if it's something that's not library specific. It might be difficult getting the okay, getting the funding, getting the time to be able to participate. But hopefully the TS4EDI materials can help you be able to build that case. Christy mentioned earlier mental health first aid, which isn't library specific, but again, is a super powerful training. So things like that can be really, really beneficial. So recommendations, again, things you can do, advocate for a professional learning budget, and hopefully this report can give you some material to be able to do that advocacy. Embrace and advocate for a culture of flexibility, risk-taking, and learning from mistakes. Embrace and advocate for an organizational culture of learning. And collaboratively develop professional learning plans with leadership that center growth, innovation, and experimentation. All right. So those are the 4 findings. Build authentic relationships, having the opportunity, again, to spend informal time with teens, meet them where they're at, expand partnerships. So think about who you might not be partnering with, who might be a really, really valuable asset. Emphasize storytelling, so share those teen success stories with stakeholders in the community, and encourage lifelong learning, so support diverse professional development opportunities. All right, I see a couple comments in the chat. Is there a more appropriate or friendly way to ask patrons, teens for letters, or is individual conversations the best way? Has anyone done this where they might want to speak to this in the chat? I, in Massachusetts, in February, I know there's a Love Your Library campaign, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not still happening, where patrons are invited to write sort of a love note to their library. And that has been really fantastic to see. I think that that has been a nice way of sort of maybe gathering those stories. Oh, Kim has a great idea, having postcards at the desk. And if someone tells you about a great experience, you can write it down. Okay, yes. Christy shared the link, Love Mass Libraries. Um, yeah, so it does. It ties it in. It's very creative. It ties it in with Valentine's Day. Um, so I think there are opportunities for to be able to do it in creative ways. Conversations are always fantastic, but I think there are creative ways where you can sort of maybe collect a lot more stories at once. All right, thank you, everyone. That's great. Keep the ideas coming. Keep it chatting. I'm just gonna move on. Okay, so a poll. Let's now that we've talked about those 4 findings, let's think about. I'm just gonna find my window that I want to open here. Let's sort of think about what you might see as potential for growth in your library. Maybe there was a finding that spoke to you this afternoon. Okay. All right. So, quick poll just to sort of see where people are at. I'm going to put the link in the chat and I will put it in the correct place this time. Okay. Link in the chat. It's the same link as before. Great. Folks have already found their way there. Oh, great. Fantastic idea. Cut out hearts with a drop box that were put up on display and then kept them for our strategic plan as it was getting updated at the time. That's fantastic. Yes, the post-it notes in a big board near the front desk, asking people to share what they love about the library. These are all really fantastic ideas. Thank you, everyone. All right. So it seems incorporating teen voices in planning and decision making is a big one this afternoon, which is fantastic. All right. I'll give it about 5 more seconds, then we can move on. Right. So hopefully this report and included recommendations and some of the other resources that I'm going to go through next, hopefully will help empower you to be able to do some of these things. And also, too, it's not something where it's like you got to do it all at once, right? It's slow, it's ongoing. It's not one of those things where it's like, yes, we did it. We did connected learning and we check it off. Although there is a checklist. There are 2 checklists that accompany this report, but right, it's an ongoing process. It's a process. All right. Thanks, everyone. That was good to see sort of what's resonating for you. All right, so the checklist. So each report has a checklist. There's one for putting the recommendations in practice for library staff, and there's one also for library leaders. There are several recommendations for each key finding. And again, it's not something where you need to feel the pressure to go in and to be able to check off every box. It might be that you focus on one key finding. A lot of folks feel like there's room for growth in involving teen voices more. So perhaps maybe you focus on the findings related to relationships and you use that to help guide you through the next year or so. All right, so let's take a look at some additional resources. No, I lost all my Hold on one second. Thank you for your patience. Okay, here we go. So, connected learning through libraries. This website is so rich with resources. You can learn more about connected learning here, but what I'm going to show you is my favorite. And I had it open, and now I don't. Bear with me. My favorite resource, here we go, Capturing Connected Learning in Libraries. This was a project also from the Connected Learning Alliance, Connected Learning Lab. And this gives you tools. Okay. One, it has case studies. So you can see how it has been implemented, how some of these tools for capturing outcomes have been implemented in other libraries. And this is one of my favorite evaluation tools, is being able to use talkback boards. And so here's a whole repository of ideas for talkback boards. So essentially what a talkback board is, right? You have maybe a whiteboard, maybe you have just like a giant sheet of butcher paper, but you have prompts on it. So one of the example prompts today is, after participating in today's program, I would like to come back. I discovered a new interest, etc. So as teens leave a program, you have them put sticky dots, and there's some great video recordings of showing talkback boards in action here as well. So that's a tool to use. Tools for evaluation, plan template here. So being able to sit down maybe with your coworkers so everyone is on the same page of how you plan to evaluate a service or a program. Yeah, so here are the videos. So this is one of my favorite things here that I always recommend and I always come back to. But this is a great place. So then let's go back to, okay, the reports themselves. So this is the report. You can download it. Hold on, let me go back. I'm sorry, I have too many windows open here. Okay, here we go. Here's the landing page. And I believe, thank you so much, Kim, for putting all of the links in the chat for me. I appreciate that. So here is the landing page for this project, where you can find both of the reports and the accompanying checklists. Let's just take a look real quick at what the checklist looks like together. You'll sort of see what I mean about how they're grouped. There we go. So you might choose to focus on relationships, and you might choose just to pick one of the recommendations, and that is totally fine, because that feels very achievable. And so maybe you spend a year thinking about what you might be able to work on. So hopefully this gives you a starting place to be able to structure something with your colleagues, library leadership, trustees, to be able to say, hey, this is what we're focusing on and this is where it's from. Okay. Also, we have had some blog posts where librarians have read the report, thought about the report, and thought about how the report, the findings, connected learning, how it might be implemented in their library, how it might already be at work in the library. That's important to say too, that you probably are already doing connected learning. You might not just have the framework or the language to talk about it yet, but I can guarantee that you are probably already doing this. And this is just a way to give you some intentionality in the way that you're planning, thinking, and talking about it. So please don't feel like this is something new that you have to do. It is just a new way to think about what you are already doing. So these blog posts are wonderful. Um, some of our Rhode Island librarians had submitted some blog posts. Some of our Washington libraries that participated in the cohort also um, submitted blog posts. So if you are looking to see connected learning in action, this is another great place to do it. Okay. All right. And I believe we're on 2 questions. I see that there's one question. Yes, Christy, absolutely. Christy put in the chat, I think of connected learning frameworks as a way to talk about teen services with stakeholders in order to advocate for teen services. Yes, absolutely. And that's what I meant about, right, having that language. All right, let's see. Do you have any recommendations for encouraging apathetic teens to have an opinion and engage in the library? This is in regard to involving teens in the decision-making process. I've tried and mostly received shrugs or been told that they have too many things going on. Um, I'm wondering about this. So I don't have an answer for this. I just have more questions maybe to think about. And this sort of goes back to the relationship building piece, that perhaps if you're seeing apathy, perhaps it's just that relationship building needs to take a little more time, um, before maybe diving into, incorporating teen voices. Um, because sort of the relationship is really the foundation. Without that relationship, it can be really challenging. Like you said, you might get shrugs until you sort of are able to dig a little deeper. Um, some of the recommendations include being able to sort of meet teens in teen spaces outside of the library. In talking with some Rhode Island librarians about this, they thought that recommendation was a little creepy because they read it as like going to like parties with teens or something to that effect. And that's not what it means at all, but maybe opportunities outside the library. So if you are being told that they have too many things going on, that's an opportunity to be curious about what they have going on. So maybe they're involved in theater, and maybe there's a production coming up, and maybe you can go see the production. And the next time you see that teen, you can talk to them about it and let them know how fantastic they were. Maybe they're in marching band. So maybe you go check out, the field show at homecoming. So then afterwards, you can say, like, again, I noticed, I saw that you were part of this. That's amazing. Tell me more. Tell me more about your interest in theater. Tell me more about your interest in music, right? So using that as sort of a starting place then to be able to move it more to them feeling like, okay, it's time. I'm ready. I'm ready to have that voice. I'm ready to, take on maybe some planning for programs or maybe being part of an advisory board. But it takes time. And I get that can be really frustrating. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, let's see. We are sometimes invited to school events like the health fair, so we are out there in the community making those connections. That's fantastic. And also, too, having those conversations with partners instead of, sort of giving the library spiel of this is what we can do for you, but being able to have those conversations and just be on people's radar is an opportunity to get yourself invited to things perhaps like health fairs or similar type events. Okay. Yeah, so great question about maintaining those professional and personal boundaries. Absolutely. Um, so again, the boundary is you're not going to write like a private residence or hanging out, right, like in the abandoned parking lot where the teens gather. Um, but sort of those spaces where the general public also is as well. Um, and it is definitely a tricky balance, being able to maintain those boundaries. And two, something else that had come up in our conversations previously about this too is if you live in the community, that can be something else that's tricky. So Oh, this is going to sound like so wishy-washy, but I feel like, right, listen to your gut. What is comfortable for you? Don't force it. If this is, you sort of have this feeling where like, no, this isn't working, or like, right, it's not working for the teen, the teen's not into talking with you, and you might want to back off a little bit. I think that's fair not to push it. Ooh, do you have any tips for building authentic relationships with teens who are not friends with, have drama with each other, and staying separate from it? Ooh, I may need to think about that for a minute. If anyone else has experience with this, feel free um, to talk about it in the chat. That's an interesting question, and I don't have anything off the top of my head. Let me think about that for a minute. Oh, okay. So I've attended a school play, a soccer game, and a school cultural fair. It was great. It gives you the opportunity to hang back and just be there so you can talk about it later. Or you can talk to them after if it feels comfortable. And I think that's right. That's part of it too. Thank you, Carla. Right. What feels comfortable? Because you kind of know it, right? Like you kind of get that sense of what's comfortable. And you can sort of feel it from the teens too if they're feeling like very uncomfortable, right? Opportunity to back off. Oh, okay. So here's a great recommendation for a question about um, sort of the interrelationships of teens, um, reminding them that the library is a neutral zone. And oh, this is great. Thank you, Jenna. I think that this is a really this is great. This speaks sort of to the boundaries we were talking about. Thank you so much. Your job is not to be their friend, but a mentor and trusted adult. And I think that really speaks to, right, acknowledging those boundaries. So you're not being a friend, you're being that trusted adult. So when we did our question of the day and we talked about who you felt supported by, who was your mentor, right, that's an opportunity to sort of go back and think about what felt comfortable for you in that moment, how that adult um, made you feel supported. Um, but that's great. I love that. Not their friend, but their mentor and trusted adult. Thank you. Um, right. So, great idea. Ask to table at teen events. Right. Having a table. So, having a presence representing the library and community places is a way to reach out, but keeping distance. This is great. Mm. Being able to say this is a shared space, so everyone needs to show respect, sort of getting back to that drama issue. Okay. This is a great concern. I worry that we will start putting pressure on ourselves to do things like this outside of work time. Um, yeah, don't do this outside of work time, is what I'm gonna say. Don't do it out of work time. Don't pressure yourself. This sort of gets back to that challenge, right, of being able to get away from the desk, which is really, really challenging. And I have probably heard this from almost every single library. I can think of like maybe one or two outliers in my state. So I get it. It's challenging. Um, Hopefully, this report, hopefully, these findings can give you some tools to advocate for being able to be off the desk, to be able to be out in the community. That's where so much of the work happens. But I'm going to say absolutely not. Do not do this outside of work time. Unless it's something you really enjoy. Maybe you really enjoy going to football games because it's really fun for you. Or maybe you were going to go see the drama production because it's a play you really enjoy anyway. But please, I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not do it outside of working hours. Please, please, please. That's how you get burnt out. Um, oh, and okay, so some more great recommendations. You guys are all great at this. See what I mean? You've been doing this. You already have been doing this and thought about this. Um, so right, being able to listen non-judgmentally is important. Absolutely. Oh, this is great. I've gone to see plays that my teens are in, but only if my schedule allows. They never expect to see me there, but are excited to see me if I feel like going. That's great. This has been a really great conversation, everyone. Okay. Do we have any other questions? I'm going to stop sharing real quick. All right. So if you don't have questions in the moment and you go back to your library and you think about this and you talk about this and you find that you do have questions, please do reach out to me. Everyone should have my email address because I'm the one who emailed you about the schedule. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to even hop on a Zoom meeting and have a conversation if you find that that's helpful for you. Um, I'm very excited about this project and this work, so I'm very happy to make it easy for you to be able to use. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Christy has put our evaluation in the chat.
Yes, please let us know what you thought and ideas for next year or future events. We would love to hear it.
Yeah, and if you lose that link, it is in the Google Sheet that you've been using to navigate in and out of our Zooms today. Help us help you. I promise you, we really do read that and have conversations. We have meetings just to go over kind of the information that's in there.
We absolutely do.
Someone asked about has anyone done pickle autopsies? If you want to talk, our Kylie Woodmansee at the Coventry Library in Rhode Island is our pickle autopsy expert. So you can read her blog post and reach out to her too. She's happy to talk about it. But someone asked if there was a PD certificate available.
We will make one and we will link it in that Google Doc. So we'll try to do that before the end of next week. I'm gonna be really honest. I don't know if it's going to happen today, but for anyone who needs that, we'll link a document for you. I just eat my pickles. I don't autopsy them. Okay. All right. I think this is it, everyone. So y'all are gonna have this pickle conversation.
I know.
This is great. And also too, the Discord, the New England Librarians Discord, keep that going. You can talk about pickle autopsies there, and share what you have going on.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good weekend.
Bye.